Thank you all very much for your time and for being with us today online on our newest session of online event Coffee With. Today we have our special guest, newly appointed ambassador of Norway in Bosnia and Herzegovina, His Excellency Olav Reinertsen. I hope I spell it correct. Okay, before we officially start, I would just ask all of our participants, of course, if they are able to turn on their cameras and to keep their microphones off, because we want to hear each other clearly. Please note that this meeting and this session will be recorded and published on our official YouTube channel and available afterwards. So if any of you wants to share it with your friends or with your other NGOs or I don't know with who, please feel free to visit our YouTube channel and to find a link. The link will also be available together on our website news about this event. Just a short notice for all of you that don't know me or our organization. My name is Miloš Kovačević, and I'm going to be a moderator of this event today. And I'm a program coordinator in NGO Cerebra, Agency for Development and Cooperation from Banja Luka. We are a local NGO that works mostly with young people and for young people, with different types and kinds of activities, projects, education, specifically in non-formal education field. And we are trying to implement as more activities as we can on local level and to include more and more local youth in active life and in active citizen life. So as I mentioned before and presented our guest today, I'm going to say hello and thank you once again, Your Excellency, for being with us today here. Hope the weather and the atmosphere there is okay and there is no any afraid of the virus. So please feel free to greet us on the beginning of this event.
So many thanks for, shall I start or would you like to do an introduction of yourself?
You can start, please, feel free.
So many thanks for inviting me to this coffee with. I am absolutely delighted to be able to meet with young politicians, young people involved in society. After all, you are the future. And I am delighted to answer any questions you may have. Please call me Olav. I'm not that kind of type that I don't feel like an excellency, but that is my role, so it just comes with it. Very much looking forward to meeting with you, and I can maybe initially say a few words about myself. I have been working with the Western Balkans, this region, for the last 11 years. I was both as a Norwegian diplomat, but also with the European Commission. I was for 4 years head of the so-called WBIF Secretariat in DG NIR. So I know the region, I know BiH. I've been in many times before, and it goes without saying that I was very pleased that I actually could become ambassador, and this is actually my first ambassadorship. So yeah, I think I can stop there, and maybe you can tell me a little bit about yourself participating today.
Okay, thank you so much. Just for a short notice, we are 12 right now. Hopefully there will be some other participants, but either way, as I previously mentioned, this is going to be available online. So any of participants that maybe wanted to be here, but they are in some other kind of circumstances that doesn't allow them to be present today with us, would be in a position to take a look here and maybe to be more actively involved with the things that we are doing on the field. Thank you so much. As you mentioned, you are this is your first ambassadorship, let's say that way, and it is in our country, in Bosnia and Herzegovina, and I'm really delighted to actually greet you and to have you here on this kind of event and discussion because firstly, when we wanted to implement this kind of activity in April and May, we had 12 in total, 12 sessions with different guests and foreign ambassadors and representatives in Bosnia and Herzegovina. And since then, it's almost half year, so 7 months, I think. After that, after our initial call to embassy, at that moment, we still didn't know that the embassy is waiting for the ambassadors arriving. So we got the response that, like, please feel free to reach us out during the summertime. We are expecting ambassador to be in Bosnia at the time. And after that, there was, I think, August. So I was thinking like, hey, it's summer, so let's reach the embassy out again. And luckily then we met in Neum during our conference, and then we were in a position to implement this kind of activity. So there's been a few months, I think, that you're here in Bosnia. And what would you say? How would you describe your first impressions about Bosnia from, let's say, different perspective now? You said that you are actively involved as in this region, Western Balkan, but from this position, how would you describe Bosnia in any sense that you can figure out?
Well, I think I can say on a professional note, if I start with that, I have made it quite clear that, you know, that I have a couple of ambitions, and with my tenure as ambassador, being here now for 4 years, we have, let's start with the bilateral relations between Norway and BiH. These relations are absolutely excellent. It goes without saying. We have, Norway is a long-standing partner for the region and for BiH, has been that for 25 years. We have a highly successful diaspora in Norway. It is actually the most well-integrated diaspora of them all. It is quite remarkable. And actually, and what I like to, when I meet with your politicians here, I remind them that they have actually, on an average level, a higher education level than an average ethnic Norwegian. And you find BiH, people from BiH diaspora in all parts of society, in finance, in law, in hospitals, they are teachers, so this is good. But there is one thing that obviously where we should do much more, and that is when it comes to the commercial relationship between the two countries. There, for one reason or another, there is hardly any trade or investments between Norway and BiH. So that is one of the reasons that I have been very much focusing on that my first 4 months. And I am glad to say that on the 1st of December, I will actually launch for the first time ever a Norway BiH Business Association. It will be launched at the residence here in Sarajevo. And the reason is simply that, you know, there is actually quite an interest among Norwegian investors to start business in BiH. Namely, the 3 sectors I clearly see a potential, that is within green energy, in solar, in wind, and hydropower. And hydropower, let me emphasize and underline that we're talking about environmentally friendly hydropower that takes care of tourism, agriculture, and local communities. It is not that we are going to destroy anything. My country is the energy consumption in Norway is 100% covered by hydropower. And actually we are exporting this to other European countries. And I think that I can say that Norway is also quite a beautiful country, and we have kept our rivers and our tourism and fishing well in place. The other sector is ICT, information communication technology. I see a clear potential there as well. There are many interesting businesses now growing here in BiH, both in the Federation and in Republika Srpska. And also when it comes to the development communities you have here, that is interesting for Norwegian investors. And thirdly, this is a beautiful country. I am astonished. Every weekend when my wife and I, we are going out hiking, we are quite nature people. And I have already been climbing many 2,000-meter peaks. Already the third week after we arrived, we went up to Maglitch, the rough part. That is pretty dangerous. And when I think about the rivers, the canyons, the mountains, the forests, it is a massive potential for tourism. So that is, you know, my first, shall we say, ambition to develop the commercial relationship between the two countries. Secondly, I believe that, you know, being a country that traditionally has always been a neutral player, we don't have an agenda. We don't have, shall we say, I will never ever raise the finger to tell any country what to do. I can come up with proposals, but and I can come up with ideas, and I can facilitate processes. But when it comes to the reform agenda of this country, and then it could be the reform agenda towards the European path, the European integration process, or the Atlantic integration process, then I believe Norway certainly has a role to play, as we are, again, perceived as a completely neutral broker. So that is the, shall we say, the three clear objectives I have professionally. When you ask, you know, how I know, so what do I feel now about the country? I've been here now for 4 months. As I said, it is absolutely a beautiful country. We are enjoying every day. We are traveling quite a lot. I have already been 4 times to Baneluca, professionally, but also privately, and different parts of RS. I've been to Mostar 3 times already. We are traveling quite a lot to see the country, to know the country, and we are simply delighted. What I also would like to mention to you, and I touched upon that briefly when I made my presentation in Naum, that was part of this School of Political Studies. What I believe is, at the end of the day, my main both concern, but also where I think the international community, we need to focus our efforts, that is when it comes to brain drain. The fact that young people like you, educated people with ideas, people with a concrete business idea, eventually they will pursue their opportunities, not in BiH, but elsewhere. I have many thoughts about this. We can, for instance, just the fact that the BiH diaspora in Norway is so successful has actually also another effect that is in itself something positive. It is positive for themselves, it's positive for my country, but that is a pull factor, because then people, they see that, you know, they are so successful in Norway. And so when it comes to brain drain, I believe that, you know, at the end of the day, the solution is that by improving the education system, having reforms there, but also to be able to create sustainable jobs, and that is very much the key to the matter. And that's why I believe that, you know, by increasing and extending the commercial relationship between our two countries will actually be quite important. Sorry, that was a long introduction, but anyway, that's it.
Thank you for this introduction. And it was concrete, it was specific, and it was actually quite good to know and to have those kind of informations and the perspective that you're actually thinking from. to maybe see where we can fit maybe with some of our ideas or with some of our thoughts, or maybe to make this discussion even more interesting. So I will just make a short break here to ask and to invite all of the participants, if they have some question or if they want to raise their hand or raise their voice, whatever they want. So please feel free to type your questions in the chat that is active on the side of your screen, or on your mobile app. I don't know what are you using currently. So please type in your questions and ask for your part, because the second part of this event will be the chance for you to jump in this conversation, to turn your microphones on, and to discuss actually with our guest about the topics that you are mostly interested in. So yes, thank you for this information. And regarding that, like, our NGO is always thinking about how to make things better, and how to do more, and how to do more concrete steps and things for the young people, but also for the whole community. Even though sometimes we are not getting the most appropriate response from the people that are mostly, you know, in a position to be our partner and the side from the other side of the table that should understand us. But hopefully we will do our best. We are still doing our best, and we are not giving up, and that is a good signal. And I'm happy to see some other NGOs that are doing even greater work, or some amazing initiatives in BiH. It shows us that we have the potential, and then that we still have desire and will to do something and to change something on the way that we think it is good. So, for example, here, when you were talking about tourism and all of these sectors, we're having some idea, and hopefully we are going to push it more forward till the end of the year. I was already in some meetings and discussions with OSCE representatives here in Banja Luka office. It is actually idea, and as you mentioned, everything nowadays is about strategy and sustainability. And there is still a huge gap in our society about those two terms. You know, I think that actually we are doing a lot of things ad hoc, and we are not actually planning to do something, and we are not projecting the real goals. So, for example, this is the idea that we were talking about. We will be trying actually to provide with some, let's say, space and offices for several NGOs from Banja Luka that are still missing their place of work. And we would like to actually create youth-friendly and sustainable, of course, NGO youth hub space. So, for example, we can include several NGOs, but we can also develop some space for freelancers, for those young people that are really interested in IT and that need some additional space to work. How would we actually provide sustainability of this idea? We would provide it with the commercial part of some space that we would rent. So, for example, meeting room or presentation room, or some other type of space. We would also place our portal, let's say, office right there, because Cerebra has established, and we are running with Mladi BiH portal, and it is a first youth-friendly, let's say, or city youth portal with all of the information on one place. And also, we would like the idea is to also develop a first ever youth hostel in Banja Luka, because Banja Luka is still not having any youth hostel. We are having some hostels, but not any of the youth hostels that are pretty much normal thing when we go somewhere on the west or on the north of the Europe, where we can see a lot of those kind of spaces with a lower price and that are really adaptable to young people coming from all around the world. We think that it is important for Banja Luka nowadays, as Banja Luka is becoming more and more recognized on a tourist map of Europe, and specifically this region, specifically with the opening and these airlines from Banja Luka airport to some other destinations. And yes, we are struggling with hotel and hostel capacities in Banja Luka year to year. Of course, now we are struggling with this Corona time, and there is not much tourists, but hopefully we are going to end with this situation and we are going to be able to promote more. Of course, the concept of sustainability with that idea would be in actually having young people, offering them student job to work in that kind of space. And of course, we would use the money that we get from tourists and the people that are paying for staying there to actually pay the bills and to provide salaries for all other workers. Like it is the people from OSCE said like that's really good idea, and we should maybe talk more about who can we find to be, I don't know, to invest in that kind of idea, or should we maybe talk with the local authorities after elections? And I said, okay, let just give us some time, and we will do our best to make some, let's say, project proposal and to move on with the initiative after the elections, because unfortunately a lot of things are not in a position to be solved before the elections. It's just the way our society works. So there's just one example and one idea that we have, and please believe us, like we have different kind of ideas from on a daily basis mostly. So I don't know what would you think about it?
No, Milos, it is exactly like this, that now it is you and your team having this idea about sustainability and focus on youth, establish a hub and even a youth hostel, which is quite correct. That is quite normal in other parts of Europe. So my immediate reaction is that this is certainly an excellent idea. By the way, this morning I met with Catherine Kavalets. She's head of the OSCE mission here in BiH. So, and we discussed actually a couple of projects, or it was also about the political situation currently. But I would certainly assume that some donors, maybe mine, that I have to leave to my project team, but that this will be sounds to me like a very, very good idea, and also that you are so focusing on young people. When it comes to hostel and the travel industry in general right now, I think if you would like to move ahead already now, then you are really tough, because this is an industry that are facing some issues, to put it mildly. Just like my own country, I mean, I think we're talking about a 95% reduction now of international travels due to COVID-19, the pandemic. So, but again, you see that there is a need in a normal situation, that there is a lack of beds, and also for such a hub, then absolutely this is something you should pursue. Prepare a project proposal, and I would certainly say go ahead.
Thank you so much. As you see, we are still testing this kind of idea. So like whenever I'm on some kind of coffee, even in like face-to-face or online event, I'm trying to talk more about this, because two heads are smarter than one. So most likely, whenever we discuss about these things, some other idea maybe come on our mind. So there is one thing that you mentioned because of the coffee with Excellency Kavalek. You were talking also about political situation and the elections. Here we have local elections in less than 30 days. So far, I would say on this way. If you compare maybe the elections system and the way that that campaign is running, for example, in Norway, and when you see the trend and campaign for local elections that is going out here, how would you describe those differences or similarities, if there is any?
Well, I mean, the similarities is that now you have started the election campaign. Election campaigns in Norway is also tough rhetoric between the main political parties, and it is always a question, at least when it comes to general elections, a question about coalitions, who will join whom, etc. When it comes to local elections, as it is here, you see that there are loads of local lists, new political parties popping up. It could be on a concrete local issue. So the fact that you have, well, I mean, you have extremely many lists, and also relative to Norway. But the fact that you have local initiatives that actually can become a legitimate political list that could run for local elections, that is something you see also in other countries. I think the main difference between Norway and BiH when it comes to shall we say politics in general, but also going down to the democratic issue of voting. That is that, and I spoke a little bit about that, when we met at this conference and seminar in Naum earlier in September. And that is that Norway is a country that is based on trust. It is a typical trust-based society. Norwegians do have trust in their political leaders. They trust the legal system. They trust the police. They trust simply. They have trust in our authorities. This trust should not be considered as blind trust, because that is something else, because then you can have some negative elements. But simply that the politicians and authorities, they are always accountable to the citizens of the Norwegian society. That is important. Of course, people will disagree, political parties will disagree. They can use, as I said, the rhetoric could be pretty rough sometimes. But generally speaking, Norwegians have trust. Maybe even more than you find in other, not only BiH, but in other countries as well. And that also means that we have normally quite a high turnout when it comes to elections. I think, for instance, when it comes to general elections, in the area of 70–75%, sometimes up to 80% will take part. The figure will be lower when it comes to local elections. But the government, and doesn't matter if it is a social democratic or a left government or a shall we say center-right government, is also very much focusing on how we can enable and facilitate that young voters actually vote. So engaging young people taking part, actively taking part in our democracy, that is that is important. So so looking from outside, it is very much the same. There's a campaign going on. It is rough rhetoric. It will probably become even rougher as closer we get to the elections themselves. But so yes, there are a couple of similarities and some differences.
Yeah, thank you for this let's say description of the similarities and differences between these two systems. My next question would be more on, let's say, the challenges that you see that we as a society are currently dealing with, specifically talking about young people, because we are mostly dealing with young people, and we are specifically youth NGO on local and national level. So what would you say, what would you recognize and address as the main challenges for Bosnia and Herzegovina here? And what do you think about the role of young people from Bosnia and Herzegovina in addressing those issues?
I think young people in BiH has a very important role to play for the future of this country. I cannot say, it cannot be underestimated, the importance of active young people taking part in NGO work, civil society, politics, society in general. I think, again, that what I see as the main challenge for this country right now, and that goes directly to the young generation, and that is that we can have a society where they actually believe that they can pursue their dreams, their desires, their lives. I say that I define brain drain as an evil, because it taps society for the most important resources a society have today. My country, some people believe that in Norway, the most important thing we have in Norway, that is oil and gas, or fish, or energy. That is not correct. The most important element in Norway and in any other Western European country, that is the software. It is the people. It is us human beings. We are the one who should manage the society and create and pursue dreams and possibilities and opportunities. And that's why I once again stress the need to have a society where the younger generation, the upcoming generation, and even the youngsters younger than you are, that they go to school, educate themselves, and contribute to the welfare and wealth and making BiH into a prosperous country. When it comes to the aftermath of the war, what about the issue of reconciliation? Yes, it is there. Politically, it is a very complex country, no doubt. The current constitution, Annex 4 of the Dayton Agreement, makes BiH a complex country. It is complex to run and to manage. But within that, there are opportunities to make BiH into even a more prosperous country than it is today. And I would also say that the starting point for a Norwegian ambassador, that is actually the Dayton Peace Agreement and the current constitution. That is the framework where we have to carry out reforms, because that I'm quite sure reforms, every country, Norway needs reforms. We are reforming every single day. We are just reforming our pension system, because we see that our current pension system is not sustainable. We are reforming, we have to transition, we are going through a huge economic transition right now, because we have to be less dependent on oil and gas. We have to focus on new technologies. That is reforms. So reforms should be carried out, even in a complex political structure as the one we have in BiH. And then you can ask, so should we do reforms because we have to join the European Union or come closer to Brussels or the Atlantic path or whatever? I would say no. That should not be the incentive. The incentive should be to carry out reforms because it is the best for the citizens. It is best for the future and the future generations. It is to make life even better than it is today. That should be the driving force behind reforms. That is why countries do reforms and have to reform themselves every single day. So, and in that picture, I certainly believe that initiatives like this, where you gather young people from NGOs and civil society and political life, that is very, very helpful. I think it is an excellent idea and activity you're carrying out.
Thank you so much for that. We are really doing our best, and hopefully we won't stop here with this kind of event. It is, let's say, the main idea that we have for the next year. Of course, if the circumstances would allow us to have these kind of conversations and together all of diplomats and foreign representatives and ambassadors in Bosnia and Herzegovina in Banja Luka in several weeks. So let's say in April or May, and to have this kind of event, but face to face again, I say if the circumstances would allow us to, but certainly we are planning to have this initiative and this kind of conversation moving forward and moving on, including more people. Of course, we are locally oriented. So first of all, for the young people from our city and for the NGOs from our city, and then of course to try to include as many people from around the country and of course the world. There was several interesting situations during all of these coffees when we had I think there was some participants from India or something like that. Some of colleagues may correct me if I'm wrong. But that's the benefit of this kind of conversation, because you actually can include people from all around the world to participate. I mean, of course, they have to calculate what's the time zone and what's the exact time of the day, so they can be present. But of course, there's a lot of new way of communicating that makes our lives more easier. For now, thank you so much. I would maybe end this part as I'm receiving only one person here that wants to ask something as well. So I'm going to finish this part with a question about the plans of the embassy and for your plans for the future, for the upcoming period. I mean, besides this that you mentioned on the beginning of the 1st December, the establishing of two countries business association, is there maybe anything that you are planning to do more, let's say, for specifically young people, the younger generations, or what would be, are there like any plans for the next period because of the whole situation with the pandemic and epidemic?
Well, concretely, we have always had quite an extensive project assistance, project cooperation rather, with BiH. This will certainly continue. I very much believe that what we do together with the Council of Europe in the School of Political Studies, this is an initiative we will pursue and continue. And I'm delighted to again go and visit. When it comes to COVID concretely, we have together with our partner there is the UNDP, and I have been so lucky really to go and visit several of your university hospitals and providing some physical equipment, testing equipment, etc., and badly needed medical equipment. That was both to university hospitals in Sarajevo, Banja Luka, and in Mostar. But probably the main thing, because we, together with OSCE, we are involved in when it comes to education. We have an initiative of integrated education with our Nansen Dialogue Center in Mostar. So I mean, but I cannot go into each and single project. But youth that has always been a focus area for us in our project cooperation. And as I said, when we are eventually beefing up our commercial relationship, that will also mean loads to the young population. You mentioned yourself that IT, for your own business plan, so to say, establishing this youth-friendly hub facility had also an element of IT. And I couldn't agree more. ICT is it's not about borders. It is just that you can cooperate wherever and with whomever. So your focus on ICT and our focus on ICT, that is also something that the young people in the BiH eventually will gain from.
Thank you so much for sharing these plans. I think that it means to majority of us when we hear such a message here that there is going to be additional and another plans including young people more and more. I cannot say how important actually it is. The best way to describe it is to say that, for example, we were talking a few minutes ago about local elections here. We should take in consideration that on these elections in this November, the generation that was born in 2002 is having their voting right for the first time. So that is really amazing information. So we already have people that were born in 21st century voting and deciding about their lives and very, very soon, hopefully, about the lives and the future of their families and children.
Exactly.
So that is the most important, I think, message here to say on the end of this part. So far, I think enough of me saying something and asking something. So, but we won't move very, very much away. I'm going to ask and invite the guy with same beautiful name as mine, Miloš. That is our governing board president of Cerebra NGO, to turn on his mic, and he mentioned that he has, I think, several questions. Please.
Yeah, thank you, Miloš, and yeah, Your Excellency, thank you first of all for accepting our invitation to participate in this our activity, Coffee With. And before I ask these questions, I would like just to make some correction about your statement at the beginning. Sorry for that, but it's up to me. Yeah, you said that youth are future. I would like to invite you, and not only you, but also other ambassadors and especially our politicians in our country to stop saying that. Because if you say that something or someone is future, and for example, youth are future, and they are acting according to this statement, like we will do, you will do, I will do, and nothing's happened. Nowadays, they are saying, many of us changed that statement, saying youth are present, and okay, it's a very important step. Like we are doing for that, we are doing this for young people, for youth organization. So maybe we are much closer to the next, how to say, level of this statement, and I'm expecting in the next period that every one of us will say youth is past in terms of we have done this, we invested this, etc., etc., so that we can say that we are invested in the young people, we have invested in youth sector, etc. So that's about
basically everything.
Okay.
And the past.
Yeah. My question, I noticed in your at your LinkedIn profile that you start your career in ICT sector, working in Telenor, and you have to say start doing in diplomacy. So is it diplomacy so attractive profession, and why is that? And in place of you, can you say some, because I saw that you were working in Dublin, in the Council of Europe, also in Brussels. Can you share and give some advice for those who want to be tomorrow diplomats? And I don't know how much time do we have, but I will ask one very interesting question that about the biggest investment fund in the world, about Norwegian Wealth Fund. That I think I'm sure that I read that now the worth is over 1 trillion. It's amazing. So, what is the secret?
Very good questions, and thank you very much, Milos too. I think on your first comment and your small remark and correction, I am absolutely delighted, and I fully agree. But I think this is, unfortunately for me, just another confirmation that I am getting old. And I'm saying that because I think we can agree upon one thing. You have at least a longer future than I have. And actually my two daughters in Norway, they're 28 and 22. They also complain when I say that, you know, you are the future. I am, you know, and they say, Daddy, stop that, you know. But certainly the youth is not only the future, it is certainly also the present, and it has a past. But I think we can agree upon that, you know, the future, your future is at least longer than the Norwegian ambassador's future. I am not going to become 120 years old. When you ask me about and this is more a personal question, diplomacy and business. My background is I studied finance. My master degree is in international finance. But I had my last year at university and I wrote my thesis at university in Germany. And when I came back to Norway, I asked myself, so should I enter the business community or should I pursue another career in the public sector? It took me actually 20 years before I finally understood that, you know, I stay within diplomacy. Because when you have studied finance, you are interested in numbers, you are following the financial situations, you read every morning, you know, how it's going on Dow Jones and at the stock exchange in Frankfurt, in Paris, and in Oslo. I mean, that is, you know, part of my DNA as well. But I was so lucky that the ministry, they granted me a leave of absence, so I could actually also pursue for a certain period of time my, shall we say, my desire, my wish to work in the business community. So it is correct. I stayed 3 years with Telenor, also in this region. Telenor was at the time in the 90s, they had GSM licenses both in Montenegro, Promonte was the company, and in Serbia. So that was a fascinating period of my life, and it gave me also some very important, I would say, knowledge that I could also apply in my job as a diplomat. So the way business people are thinking is quite important, and also to understand how business are working. If I should give an advice, that is entirely up to each individual. I have had a very interesting career as a diplomat, both in Oslo at our headquarters there, but also at foreign postings in Dublin, Strasbourg, Brussels, and now eventually BiH. The only thing I decided quite early, that was that I wanted to have an international career. I have always been fascinated by other countries, other cultures. Now it happened to be that I have been working on this region and this country for many, many years, and of course to become an ambassador and to pursue some of your own thoughts and ideas, that is of course a very good, for me, a very nice opportunity. If you have this desire of working abroad, you can either do that, I believe, in business, or as a diplomat, or in an NGO. Today, borders don't mean that much anymore. So I can assure you, and this is probably there are plenty of opportunities to pursue an international career. When it comes to our sovereign fund, some call it the Norwegian Oil Fund. The correct name is Norwegian Pension Fund. And it has become quite significant, and you're quite right. Then you can ask yourself, yeah, does that mean that Norway and Norwegians are extremely rich? Well, the answer is that this pension fund is, I think, more or less 100% is placed in real estate and in shares and bonds and in different financial instruments abroad. We cannot just start using this money, because if we would do that, we would actually destroy our own economy. This is about our exchange rate, our trade balance. It is about our inflation, etc., etc. So, as I said, we are facing many of the same challenges as other countries are doing, with the need for maintaining schools, hospitals, roads, rail, purely infrastructure projects, and there is still a massive need in Norway to further develop that. So yes, it has become a huge. It is, as you probably said, the biggest sovereign fund right now in the world. But it is not that our finance minister one day decides that no, we are going to take everything back to Norway and we're going to spend it. That will be impossible. There is actually a rule on that, and that is that you cannot use more than 4% of the yearly interests of the fund. So it is relatively marginal what we actually can use. But a good question, Milos.
Thank you for your answers.
Thank you so much also for this comment and question, and also dear Olav, for your answers. I'm going to use also this chance and opportunity to mention one more of our ideas that is actually really similar to this concept and strategically placed fund. This summer, symbolically on International Youth Day, 12th of August, at 12:08, we actually signed a platform and a declaration of establishing a fund that is going to be called Youth Mobility Fund in Bosnia and Herzegovina, and we are trying to legally establish it these days. The main idea would be actually to promote mobility among young people more. As you already mentioned a few minutes ago, that the reconciliation is a huge challenge and issue here in Bosnia and Herzegovina. We do believe that mobility is the perfect tool to support reconciliation on a most convenient way, actually, and to help young people to be more involved in mobility programs, because we do believe that mobility is opening your mind and inspiring your soul and hearts with love. Actually, we do want to work more on that. The main idea basically about this fund would be to ask public and private sector, first of all in Bosnia and Herzegovina, and all of the municipalities to provide some, let's say, funds, like basic funds for this whole fund that we are going to establish, hopefully on the level of whole country. From this fund, we would be funding actually the mobility programs for young people all around Bosnia and Herzegovina, in Bosnia and Herzegovina and out of Bosnia and Herzegovina. But for the first few years, those programs and those events that are actually, how to say, that are guaranteeing the reimbursement of the travel costs. Why is that so? Because for the first several years of existence of this fund, we want to make sure that the fund will be with the character of circling fund and sustainable fund. Because after we pay for somebody's trip and after we get the refund money, we are going to place that money back in that fund, and in that way we won't lose any convertible mark from that fund in first several years. Hopefully that fund is about to be larger and larger in following years. So after a few years, we are planning actually to do this kind of recipe and to start to investing with this fund on some additional sustainable sources from which we can get some money back, and that we can put again in use for the young people, not only to support those programs that are guaranteeing refunds, but also to pay for some scholarship, to pay for some extra tuition fees or fees for participation in, let's say, seminars or some additional programs that can actually help our young people to move abroad, to see something new, to make some stronger connections, and to come back in Bosnia and Herzegovina and to try to implement those ideas. This is also just an idea. This is an initiative that we are starting, that we have really huge plans with to do more in future. The idea is also already recognized on international level in Luxembourg, in one of ERICA, European Information and Consulting Agency from Luxembourg. They put this kind of model that is actually working already now as a platform in my municipality of Laktaši, as a platform that, so we were actually applying as a project, and municipality gave us the money, and we are still having this money used in this purpose. So yes, we would most probably have this idea moving on in the following months and years, and we do believe that this is a great chance for all of us.
Can I just comment on one thing? When you introduced this initiative, sustainable sources. If you are able to attract also private funding, not only public or from the international community, then I think you have really, that is, you have found the key. As long as more and more when it comes to development cooperation, project cooperation, if the international community sees that, yes, we have actually private participation, there is a private interest from the private sector, then that gives that means that there is a sustainable element. And after all, this is what we would like to see, that all initiatives we are initiating, carrying out, implementing, carrying out, that at the end of the day, it will have a sustainable effect, and it's sustainable and an impact that will last. So so on this youth mobility fund, sounds to be, and particularly because you have this element of private participation, that is a very, very good mix and an idea.
Thank you so much also for this this advice. We will take that also in mind when we start with all of this program establishing. I would use this chance and opportunity to ask somebody else from the chat to maybe raise the hand and to ask if they want to ask something. Natasha, is that a signal for question?
Yes, can you hear me?
Okay.
I have one question. Your Excellency, you are on the beginning of your mandate as ambassador, and what do you expect of your mandate in our country? Thank you.
I have no illusions that the elements I indicated to you, that this will be a quick fix. But I am so fortunate that I have an excellent staff at the embassy, a motivated, energetic, experienced staff, and that we together, myself and my deputy and the staff together, can achieve some concrete results. I would say that again, my probably biggest asset here in BiH is not me as a person, because I have a role as, and that this goes for all my colleagues. We have a role as ambassadors. But I would say that the fact that we are an open-minded and completely neutral partner, we are able to talk to everybody, regardless which part of the country, which political color, it doesn't matter. And also when it comes to constitutional groups, it is the same. So of course I would be happy if I could see that my 4 years, and keep in mind, I'm not a very patient person. I'm actually quite impatient, but still I know that this will take time, but that I can contribute to through dialogue to move the reform agendas forward on behalf of the citizens of the BiH, not on behalf of the international community. This is important. I think we can achieve something there. And also when it comes to, as I said, creating jobs, sustainable jobs, and see Norwegian business community more active in BiH. That is probably my humble reply to your question, Natasha.
Okay, we have thank you so much. Thank you for this question and also the answer. And we are already 1 hour and 5 minutes in this chat, so probably we are all maybe a bit tired, even though we were taking coffee, some of us actually water, but never mind. I'm going to use this opportunity on the very end of this event to ask you all to actually follow the official channels of Norwegian Embassy on Facebook. There is also profiles of our dear guest ambassador on Instagram, Twitter, and LinkedIn, if I'm not wrong. If there is any else, please feel free to to share them, and so we all can be actually in touch and to follow each other's. Also, I would use this opportunity to invite you, if you still do not follow our official channels, so Cerebra NGO on Facebook, Twitter, Instagram, LinkedIn, and also our YouTube channel. There is www.cerebra-ngo.com, our official website, and also mladibl.com official portal for young people with all informations for young people, not only from Banja Luka, but of course with focus on Banja Luka. For all those from Banja Luka region, there is also a Viber community, Banja Luka Mladi, Mladibl. So please, if any of you wants to jump in this conversation, feel free to contact and to reach us out on our social profiles, social media, and network profiles, and we would be thrilled to allow you to participate in this kind of chat, and also to be able to follow all the information that we are actually putting in that group on a daily basis. Also, I am going to use this opportunity once again to thank you so much, dear ambassador, dear Olav. As I mentioned a few times before, please feel free to reach us out for any kind of help and any kind of cooperation while you're in Bosnia and Herzegovina, not only you, but also your embassy staff. We would be really, really happy to see you really soon in Banja Luka in person. As I already mentioned, we would be happy to be your hosts here and to show you a bit more of history and sightseeing of our beautiful city here, and also to maybe try some of the best recipes and food, maybe in the Balkans, but for sure in Banja Luka. So please, whenever you're in Banja Luka, you're invited to be our guest, and hopefully we are going to make some great extra efforts and initiatives and projects together in the future. I'm going to give you the last word for this, for the closure of this event, and maybe to say some final message to all of the young people and the others that will be in a position to take a look at this video.
So let me say that it was a pleasure meeting all of you and to have this very interesting exchange of views. With pleasure, I would like to continue over the discussions and also to come visiting you. When it comes to food, yes, I must say that I will gain weight in this country, even if I'm trying to train a little bit, because the beef and the vegetables in this country is absolutely astonishing for a Norwegian, because there the similar products are pretty poor, honestly, in comparison. Because here in BiH you have ecological agriculture, the real way, and that is also something you should think about when it comes to your future and future export of agricultural products. Again, many thanks for inviting me. It has been a pleasure, and let's stay in touch, and always feel free to contact me, and also for future cooperation.
Thank you so much all once again. Hopefully we are going to see each other very soon. Please stay safe, stay positive, but be negative in case of testing on coronavirus. And all the best. Thank you all.
Many thanks.